Do you have a freshman roommate horror story? I go to a school where the general populace is a bit weirder than the rest of the country. In this weird/eccentric community, there are the kids that we find weird. Those kids did not like to hang out with my roommate. As best I can describe, he was like a child in a child's body. He was a grimy little thing, but with the age of someone in college. Don't get me wrong, the kid is brilliant, but he was terrible at life. I'll start the description in the way that I got to know him. He scratched a lot, noisily, and mainly his face. He talked to himself, and not the confirming things I need to do kind of talk to himself. The Gollum to Smeagol talk to himself. We had public bathrooms/showers for our entire hall. He was caught masturbating in them on multiple occasions. How? Let's just say he was very vocal about it. He developed a horrendous snoring problem the week of finals. He was incredibly intolerant, as well as sexist. He frequently alluded to rape in conversation. In general, I would say, creepy with a side of grime. I had 2 roommates that kept eating all of my food. Within the first week, classes haven't even started, I went to make myself a peanut butter sandwich, my first peanut butter sandwich in this dorm. It was ducking gone. They left the tub in my cupboard. Anyways, I flipped the duck out, because who the hell eats a whole tub of peanut butter by themselves, without introducing themselves? These girls would literally scarf down all my food, and complain if they thought anyone was touching their food. So I started buying really fattening food, donuts, etc. I was trying to teach them self-restraint, but these people would go through these boxes within 2 days. So I kept buying donuts. And then one day they started complaining about how they couldn't fit their jeans. Success. I also put laxatives in my peanut butter. Made my first account just to reply to this. Walked into the room for the first time freshman year and saw him standing in the middle of the room screaming at his dad. He was yelling about not wanting to go and how he blamed his mom for writing his college essay and filling out the application. He kept calling my roommate, I shall name him Eduardo, an ungrateful piece of it, and threatening to beat the it out of him if he tried to leave. It was right after he finished speaking that they realized I was in the room. They both pretended nothing had happened, shook my hand, and introduced themselves. Luckily my parents had not walked in with me, so they didn't have to see that and be worried. Eventually my parents met us as they helped me set up the room and talked about how proud of us they were. Eduardo's dad kept saying things like it's either college or the street, cause I'm not paying to support a failure. My parents of course thought he was joking. Every day this kid told me how much he hated school. He would never go to class, drink in the room all day with the door open, we were a dry campus, scream at everyone, party all night, and generally just be a dick. He used to watch VH1 every night until 4 AM, with the volume cranked up so loud you couldn't hear. When I asked him to turn it down, because I couldn't hear, he said he would, if I wrestled him. Turns out he was serious. He wanted to wrestle me, because of me asking him to turn down that Bret Michaels Rock of Love show. I declined and went to bed. The next day he called his mom to come get him, and she agreed, and said she was getting in the car. She never came. He lost his it. He broke everything he owned. Punched a hole through his TV, slammed his Guitar Hero controllers on the ground repeatedly, threw his sparks out the window, cracked his cell phone in half, ripped his bedsheets. He basically totaled his side of the room. I left the room during all this, assuming he was just blowing off steam and not knowing he was breaking his it. I walked back into a ducking war zone, with him standing in the middle of the room crying, drinking laundry detergent, yelling about how he wanted to die, and how he took a whole bottle of Advil after he broke his stuff. I ran to get the app, and he ran and took the broken glass/plastic shards from his computer monitor, and started cutting his wrists. The rab and I re-entered the room to this kid throwing up detergent and bleeding. Cops called, they feed him charcoal to prevent him from dying due to detergent/pills. Apparently they do this instead of ipecac syrup. He left that night. Woke me up to say goodbye. Last thing he said to me. Goodbye Jake Wack, sorry about ruining your birthday. I swear to God this story is 100% true. And so is the part where he tried to bring in a gun to kill me later, but that's a different story. My roommate freshman year got completely hammered, came back to the room around 1 in the morning, and accused me of stealing the pudding in her fridge that she had ate an hour before she went out. She waited until I fell asleep and then stabbed me in the arm with one of those clicky pencils. I had to go to the hospital to get it cleaned/stitched. She got kicked out. My roommate freshman year was a B from the moment we first met. I knew I was doomed. On move-in day, as she berated her doctor father, she accused the help of stealing her jewelry. "You don't steal, do you?" was her greeting to me. After our families left, she quickly responded to her psychiatrist's email and asked me when I planned on dropping out so that she could use my bed as a couch. She was rude and was always loudly talking on the phone with her boyfriend. I woke up one night and they were having phone sex. Her side of the room was disgusting, and she told everyone on my floor that I was crazy and jealous of her because I was poor. My first few weeks of college were tough enough, and having to deal with her was wearing me down. I coped the only way I knew how. I wrote in a, what I thought to be anonymous, online journal. I wrote about the phone sex, the entitlement she had, and how miserable it all was making me. She found the journal, used an out-of-school email address to threaten me bodily harm. I brought it to the resident director and she asked to see what I had written as well. At the end of the day I was told that I had a problem with depression and anger and needed to get mandatory counseling and sign a safety contract saying that I would not hurt myself or others, but I was allowed to move into a single room. The bee ended up going crazy. She holed herself in her room and never went to classes, dropping out and having a kid. I graduated, so I guess I win. I got absolutely hammered and pissed all over my roommate's desk the night before the end of the year. I woke up to him hanging up his money to dry out. Sorry, dude. Years later he ended up, quite randomly, as my boss, and ended up giving me a significant promotion. I guess he doesn't hold grudges. You know what he's gonna do? He's gonna set you up. Give you a life. Perfect job. A family. A house. Then once you've got everything, once you have everything to lose, he's gonna take it all away. This guy's dangerous. Certainly not as bad as some of these, but worth mentioning. My orientation/summer semester roommate was an anime/mild video game nerd. She played WoW, but that was it. She told me from day one that she wasn't too big on drama or fake hanging out group time, that she liked to veg. Cool, I thought, we are going to get along great. Since our program had us placed with identical schedules, studying was going to be a breeze. The program was 5 weeks long. The first week went great. We hung out, shared notes, studied together. We cracked cheeky jokes, commented on the vanity of some of our classmates, and watched bad ghost hunting TV shows. All was well. But after a week and a half I began to realize that our personalities were a little too well matched. You see, my roommate never left the room. Ever. We went out to dinner one night and lingered for half an hour every few days to get coffee on campus, but beyond that, she was pretty much a potted plant in the dorm room. No amount of coaxing or invitation from myself or our friends got her to go out. After a while I began to feel the frustration of pent-up sexual energy. She was a light sleeper, and even stealthy masturbation was usually enough to wake her up. I tried in the shower, but being a not so crafty female, that usually didn't lead to much success, and doing it in the dorm showers was not exactly my idea of a private setting. My only hope was to get this girl out of the room for any amount of time, but it was as if the girl was a sadist. Showers. 5 minutes, like lightning. Bathroom trips. Usually 3 minutes. Food. Only went when I went, otherwise, she ate from the boxes of food she'd brought with her. Studying sessions. Again, only went out when I did, otherwise, she studied alone, or with me in the room. Finally, a friend and I plotted a master conspiracy to get her out. He was going to drag her to sushi for dinner, even if it involved her kicking and screaming, and I was going to pretend, have a study session with one of my friends in the room. She did not like this person. Everything was set until the morning of the day we'd planned to get her out. In one of our classes, we watched a video on sexual assault and sociology. Our teacher made it very clear to us, in an almost uncomfortable way, that students who were bothered by the content in the video were free to walk out, to take a minute, and that there were on-campus support groups. Sure enough, during a 5-minute mid-class break, it was a 3-hour class, she turns to my friend and I, and admits that she almost started crying. She then nonchalantly comments to me that she wonders if there are any support groups on campus. She then gets up to quietly speak with our professor. In other words, she'd just informed me, all but explicitly, that she was a sexual assault victim. This whole time I'd thought my roommate was sadistic and didn't understand blatant hints about needing personal time. It turned out that I was with an assault victim who was terrified of being around people she didn't intimately trust. Needless to say, I wound up going the entire semester without a single successful sklick, and my morality guilt tripped me the entire time about being bitter to her about it.